All right, so you are in for such a treat today. A couple weeks ago, as I'm recording this, end of January 2026, I hosted my very first podcast glow up party. It was amazing. It went so well. The women who joined me were so lit up. There were so many aha moments. And I thought to myself, I need to share this with my podcast audience too. The content was so juicy. So 4 days, we dug into different areas that they can focus on right now in almost auditing their podcast where it is and fixing it and improving it and making it not only more organically discoverable, but also just improved in other ways and integrated into their business more and all the things. It was such a blast. We had so much fun. So today I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. What I will say is I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I'm playing with the idea. I might do one more glow up party before I go on maternity leave, but I'd love to hear from you. If you would love to join the glow up party, maybe you joined already and you want to join again because it was so great, or it's something you'd love to join in the future, go ahead, email me, jump into Instagram, DM me, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And maybe that'll help me decide if I want to run it again or not. But today, what I wanted to do is give you a sneak peek of what it was like to be in the glow up. So I actually am taking the recording from day 2. We dove into some really powerful tweaks that podcasters can be focusing on and doing within their project management process. So like within recording and editing and getting all of your content up for the podcast, small tweaks that you can be doing to make that whole process so much easier and to never feel like you're stuck in the, oh my gosh, what should I record? Or chasing your tail, or I have to record this and it goes live tomorrow. And then your entire audience can tell that you sat down and recorded this the day before it was supposed to go live. So we want to get away from that, right? Because that just pulls so much energy away from us as podcasters. So we talk a little bit about some tweaks. So you're literally going to walk away with some of the tweaks I shared. And then the other thing we talked about that's really, really important is we took a really good look at what it actually looks like to be competing in the space of podcasting versus YouTube or a blog. So I put it all together. I put all the numbers together for you. I'm sharing them. We're talking about why there's such a unique advantage as a podcaster and why you're right on time. And I also share some numbers that are going to talk about the growth projected for the podcasting industry. It's really exciting. And I think at the end of the day, the reason I wanted to share this one is the day 2 just felt like everybody was so fired up. They just felt like, yes, this is it. Because it's so easy to see some big name podcasters maybe not pouring into their podcast as much and start to think, well, is podcast dying? And it's like, not at all. They're not sharing the full story about why they're doing that, right? And so trust me when I say podcasting is still a huge hit. I mean, the numbers are projected to continue to grow in a really exciting way. So I'm glad you're here. I can't wait to share this with you. Let's dive in. And again, if you would love to join the podcast, maybe the time didn't work out or you didn't get in the first round, let me know because I may do one in April, I'm thinking, but I'd love feedback from the audience. Go ahead, email me, DM me, drop a comment if you're on Spotify and let me know what you think. It's a 4-day glow up where we kind of look at the different areas where you can audit your podcast and how to implement those so that you are really utilizing it in the best way to not only grow the show, but grow your business, your email list, all the things. So, all right, let's dive into this amazing, amazing conversation. There's a couple things I really want to anchor in with you today. One, I want to talk about production flow, and I want to talk about the importance of finding non-negotiables that you're going to focus on to make sure that you are not recording the same day or the day before your episode goes live, because that can be really stressful. It's the number one reason I find entrepreneurs and podcasters say, I'm out, I'm done, because it gets too hectic. And when we talk about our keywords yesterday, right? We were talking about our keywords. You're going to start to get more podcast episode ideas that are going to fire you up. And I'm going to show you how to make sure that they're logged somewhere so that you don't forget and that you can always, when you need to come and record and batch record, we're going to talk about batch recording, you already have episodes, topics. They don't have to be fleshed out. They don't have to be anything, but just the topic there so that you can come in and go, okay, I'm going to focus on recording 2 episodes today. I have my 2 topics. If it's not a guest, here they are, and then you can dive in. So we're going to talk all about that. We're also going to talk about reframing the competition. I literally could not have planned this out better when Amy released that podcast episode. So I want to show you some real numbers that are going to get you excited to be in the podcasting industry, from what real numbers look like with competition in the platforms to how many female podcasters there are, the metrics that we're expecting to see growth in the podcasting industry. And I wasn't really going to dive into this, but I've been getting so many questions about, well, we're seeing like these big name podcasters, stop podcasting or moving to YouTube or this or that. And is the podcast industry dying? And no, it's not. It's still growing. And so if you're here and you're committed, and if this is a platform you love and you really want to pour into it, it's here for you and it's going to love you back. So, okay, first things first, I'm actually going to just come full screen and we're just going to chat like this for a little bit. And then of course I have some visuals I want to share with you. So I'll be sharing those in a second. Okay. So first things first, how many of you have heard me say, just want to check my chat before we dive in. This is something I have trouble with. I'm going to answer this before we dive in. This is a great question. Sorry. Okay. So she said, do you ever go over the same topics months later? People need repetition? ? Okay. Yes. This is such a great question. Think about, let's keep going. We kind of keep going back to the example of one of my current one-on-one clients, Holly Haynes of Crush the Rush podcast. She has like over 600 episodes. Do you think there is 600? She has never copied the same topic and reframed it. Absolutely. People need repetition all the time. And the other thing that's cool about us as podcasters is I feel like we grow, we evolve, we learn. And so when we might have talked about a topic maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, that topic, if it performed well, and we can always look at our metrics for that, right? Our metrics can help guide us on that. Or say that our metrics said that episode didn't do well, but you're like, no, this is gold. Like, why didn't it perform well? We can revisit it, right? We can revisit it not only with updated content, but updated episode title. We are going to be better teachers, or we're better at storytelling or expressing ourselves or whatever it might be. So absolutely. And the other thing is, when you think about your business, you probably have some pillars. Like, actually, I'm thinking about Reverend Hani. Yesterday, she shared with us like these pillars that's kind of like create her company, right? The main touch points, content pillars that they have, those are going to be, you're going to want to thread those content pillars basically throughout a lot of your content. And I don't think we're going to dive into it during the 4-day glow up, but if you ever work with me in a bigger capacity, something I love to teach is how we can use our podcast to leverage any product, coaching, digital consulting launch that we do. And there is a little bit of a podcast run rate that's really intentional. And so let's say that you are selling a coaching package or even a digital product, same's going to go here. You are going to want to touch every time you're doing a launch. So every time you kind of have your cart open or leading up to the launch, you're going to have probably similar things that you're going to touch on, because you want to make sure not only new people are hearing that, but maybe people who haven't worked with you for whatever reason it might be, they are going to hear that again and then more likely opt in, more likely say yes to whatever you're inviting them to join you in, right? And so there are times and seasons where we definitely do the same topics. And sorry, I think this is a great way to also avoid burnout, is to repurpose topics as we grow, as we expand. Or the other thing is, say a topic does really well and you see that in your metrics, what you can do is you can go back and think deeper on it and go, gosh, can I break this into 4 episodes? Could I expand on this specific topic? Is there something that maybe I left out that I could do an individual episode on? So there's lots of ways to do that. So I love that question. Okay. So here's what I want to say. Have you ever, you can either raise your hand or drop an emoji. Have you ever heard me say that we need to treat our podcast like a product? Raise your hand if you've seen it, nod your head, drop an emoji, whatever. Yes, definitely. It's something I'm kind of known for, and I'll tell you the story. So going back to Amy, obviously I talk about her a lot. We spent many, many years with her. We were just like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Why isn't our podcast growing? It was already doing great, but why isn't it growing? And one day I went to like podcast movement or something like that. And I came back and I was like, we treat everything else in our business, all of our products, so intentionally, and we plan and we plan and we plan and we spend so much time on the pre-launch and the launch and the emails and all of this, but we never treat our podcast like a product. And then we expect it to be treated like a product in terms of what kind of revenue is it bringing in? Is it helping to grow the email list? Where are the metrics at? And it's like, well, that's not fair. So we need to start treating it like a product. It goes for every female podcaster who is also an entrepreneur. We need to imagine that our podcast, when we look at like our product suite, whether it's digital courses, consulting, coaching, memberships, whatever, if you were to imagine that in front of you, maybe you have, 3 things, maybe you have 15, I hope not, but maybe, and you want to see your podcast as one of those products, right? Your podcast is in your product suite. And so again, if you work with me like in a bigger capacity, which you'll have an opportunity to, but I will dive in on how to make that more of like a lead magnet and things like that. But for today's purposes, I want you to think about, would you just go into a launch willy-nilly? Would you just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to, and I think we all have it from time to time, just going to throw up an offer and see what happens. But I think the more experienced we become as entrepreneurs, the more intentional we become with how we're launching a product, how we're talking to our audience, the messaging, how we're inviting them into the product, right? So why would we just throw things willy-nilly at a podcast? Why would we say, I'll record when I can record? I'll come up with my episodes right before I'm going to sit down and record. You know what? I'll just record it and then I'll edit it and throw it up. Like you all paid money to be here. We're not going to do that anymore. And I'm not asking you to be 6 months out. I'm asking today, we're going to focus on what are small tweaks that we can be doing to make it easier to create really high quality podcasts without burning out, without feeling like you're always chasing your tail. So go ahead, drop in the chat if like where you're at with production. Do you feel like you're chasing your tail? Do you feel like you're ahead on things? Like we can be honest here.
It has been a pleasure. And Nikki.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, drop it in the chat. Just share with me if you can be honest with me. Laurel, snap, sorry, totally get it. Week to week, not a lot in the bank. Okay. Definitely not ahead. Yeah. And who's also guilty of putting your podcast kind of on the back burner versus like your paid products? Yeah, it happens, right? It's easy to do. But I get it. And here's what I'll say. I was so sick. I have been so sick. This pregnancy really took it out of me. And I didn't record a single episode. I was probably 2 months ahead. I didn't record a single episode in December. Like, I finally jumped on in January, recorded a couple, but I didn't have to worry about it. So I don't need you to be 2 months ahead. I want you to have 4 weeks of content at least in the cooker that you know is planned. It doesn't necessarily have to be recorded. So I really want to focus on this. And Reverend Hani has a great point. Like, I love where I am. It's super easy. I actually do not plan. Our show is raw and real. And that does work great for some people. And I love that. And if you can identify that and you know you're not, if it doesn't feel like you're chasing your tail, great. Like, I have one client who is a therapist and she was world schooling. I think I spoke about her yesterday, Ashley McDonald. And she said, when I would get away from my kids, I would take my phone and I would go on a walk and I'd record my episodes, like walking through Europe, like the streets of, France or whatever. And people would hear dogs barking and this and that. And it just like worked for the flow of mine. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I want us to be aware of that. But I think majority of us can admit that it would feel good to get a little bit of ahead, right? So let's talk about it. When we think about our episodes, like raise your hand, drop an emoji. Are you guys banking your episodes when an idea pops up, when a client says something, when you see something on social media, when an email comes up, like do you have a bank? So it would have, for the situation, it would feel good to have some in the bank. I do. I love that. I want us to start banking those, right? And I want us to also, here's the goal. Here's what I would really love is just like you would for anything else in your business. I want you to sit down maybe at the top of the month and take 1 hour max. You could take 1 hour or less to plan out the next 4 episodes. And what you'll find is you'll probably have more fun doing this when you actually put it into your calendar and you say, okay, the first Tuesday of every single month, I spend from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. focusing on what's coming down the pipeline for the podcast, right? This truly, truly can make it feel so much easier when you go to sit down, whether you do something like create a script or bullet points, or whether you riff, even just having those topics there. And here's the other thing, as you are all diving into keyword research, talking to your ideal customers, like we spoke about yesterday, you're going to have ideas come really quick. All of a sudden, your clients, your customers, your ideal customers are going to start just planting the seeds of these episodes. Don't let them run away. You have to get them down on paper. So I'm going to share with you what my planning process looks like today. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. So that's one thing. The other thing that I do feel most of us should do is find some sort of a planning process platform. It can literally be Google Sheets. I love Asana. Asana, Asana. I'm going to show you what my plan looks like in a second. That's my favorite. In fact, I'll drop it here. I don't have like an affiliate code or anything, but I personally just think this is the most, I've worked with a lot, and I think this is the most user-friendly platform that you can use. There's also you can literally use it for free for the capacity that we're doing. But having something where you can go in there, and here's the other thing I love about having something, even if it's like a Google spreadsheet, and you'll see I use both Google spreadsheets and Asana. The goal, if not already, is maybe to have a VA support us that can jump in and maybe help with editing or help with show notes or anything like that, or say something happens and you can't upload your show, and so hopefully somebody down the road can have access to support you like that. Yeah, there's Trello, there's Monday, there's so many options. Find your flow. I personally love Asana. So the goal is, one, book out one day a month, ideally at the beginning of the month, where you sit down, give yourself 1 hour to sift through your ideas, plan out upcoming episodes. Now, if you are a planner like me, I like to put more than just 4 on the calendar, but do what works for you. Okay. The second thing is figure out a planning process. Again, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of something that you can very much easily replicate if you want in Google Sheets. I'll also show you what it looks like in Asana for me, depending on the capacity of how organized you like things. And then also the last thing I want you to do is I want you to decide, even if you're riffing, even if you're not a planner, what day you want to record on. What days every month are you going to record on? And commit to those days like it's a doctor's appointment that you've been waiting 6 months for. Okay? So for me, every other Tuesday, I sit down and I record. And here's the beautiful thing about that. If I have a guest coming on, I know the 2 Tuesdays that I am recording, and all I have to do is send them either a calendar link where they can book it, or I book it myself on those Tuesdays. If I don't have guests, I'll sit down and I'll record whatever capacity I have. That might be 2 episodes. It might be 3, right? But truly, truly being able to batch. Yeah, Notion's another. ClickUp. I have clients who work in ClickUp with their podcasts. There's so many options, right? But again, so first things first, let's focus on how can we plan on ahead? How can we give ourselves 1 day a month to do that? 2, what kind of management platform is going to be really supportive for me? It does not need to be super fancy. If you work with an accountant, they're usually you can go something as organized as, a platform. You can go something as simple as Google Sheets. Just give it to me in whatever platform works, right? So make it work for you. The other thing we want to do is figure out, what days am I going to record? Is it every other Tuesday? Is it every Tuesday? Is it every Thursday? Is it every Wednesday? Is it one Wednesday a month that I'm just going to bust them out? Make it a priority, right? And do something that feels good for you. But just like launching a new digital product, or just like bringing on a new client, you wouldn't just show up that day and say, all right, well, let's just dive in, right? I mean, depending on what your focus is, but for the most part, you're going to be planning a little bit ahead, right? You're going to be thinking about it. Same thing with the podcast, right? Let's find some systems that work that we can start slowly getting ahead. You're not going to be 6 weeks, 2 months ahead, by the end of this week, but you might get 2 weeks ahead. And you know what? You might get 4 weeks ahead and then fall back 2 weeks, but it's so good. And it just feels so good. And also when we do this, when we're not chasing our tail, we can literally look at our calendar and go, okay, what episodes are coming out when I'm going to be promoting my coaching program? when I'm going to be promoting my digital course? When I want to promote a new lead magnet to get people on my email list, right? We can sit down and we can go, okay, what content is coming out and how can I align that content with the launch that I have? Okay, is this resonating with you? Tell me something that you're like loving about this, something that you're like, no way, Kylie. Heck no. You won't get me on that. It's fine. Love this. Yes, totally. And those 3 things I shared are so easy, right? We just have to go to our calendar. We just have to put them in our calendar. Okay. So before we move ahead, I want to share my screen two times a month to sit down and pour out. Feels so much better. Yeah. Sit down, meditate, and then let it flow. Yeah, I love that. Sorry. I agree. Because you have such a good point, because you can like get into the space, right? And you're not all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have to put something out tomorrow. And it kind of feels frantic because especially with, I just feel like female podcasters, our listeners can generally tell if we're like hopping on frantic or hopping on, not maybe feeling a little under the weather or this or that. Like, we have a lot of females in our audience and let's be honest, we're far more intuitive. So, okay, let's dive into, I want to share my screen. I shouldn't generalize that. There are many intuitive men. My husband is one of them. Okay, let's go here. I want to show you this slide. Okay, so there's 2 things that you're looking at here. One is Google Sheets. So easy. Literally, I actually clipped this because what you'll find out about me is I like to plan. I like to plan. That's my way. You can ask Kathy Heller about that. But I tend to go overboard, right? I tend to like have a lot of things in one place. For simplicity's sake of us today, I wanted to literally show you the 4 columns that I have that are the absolute most important. If I don't have time to update all the rest, like I'll have like a YouTube link and my URL, and I'll have, if I don't have time to update those, this is what gets updated. Okay. You can literally screenshot this if you want, right? You can go into Google Sheets for free and you can make this. Okay. So I just have my episode number here. I have my episode title and topic. Now, what you are seeing right now is finalized episode titles. However, if I were to show you my real doc, I have a bunch more that are just topic ideas. Literally just like, I'm not going to try to come up with anything creative right now, but basically just like I'll sit down, literally, like I said, I sit down, I take some time, I put some time aside, and I just start typing out names. Sometimes guests. If I don't have I have a guest coming up, but I don't have a name for their episode yet because it's not recording, it'll just say their name right there, right? And so I put the idea I have until I have a finalized title. I put the go live date. So that's the date it drops, right? And then this is the status. And I actually have this as a drop down, and it's basically like nothing in Riverside. So my VA knows he can go grab it. Edited. So edited, it means like V1. I can go listen to it, make sure it sounds good. Uploaded. So uploaded to Captivate, and then live. And then I turn it green, and I actually end up hiding all the columns to truncate it and make it a little bit cleaner. But this is so easy. The next column over that I can tell you about that I'm not showing right now. Oh, I guess I do have it here. Title finalized. Okay, that's another one that I have there. So that, again, I have a VA. So he knows I have a VA, and then my sister helps with some tasks. They can come in here and they can see that the title is finalized. If not, they're pinging me and saying, hey, do you have a title for this? Okay. Okay, so again, take a screenshot of that if you want. Now, this is my Asana template. I create one of these for every single episode. Again, depending on what it looks like in Notion, ClickUp, Trello, whatever, you do it in your flow, but you might pull some ideas away from this. So what I do is for every single episode, I have one of these created. That way, again, anyone who's supporting me, if I need to jump out, somebody can jump in. If it's just me, I know where I am and I'm not overwhelmed by what's happening. I have a planning and pre-recording. So that's going to be like if I have a guest coming on, I have like the booking link here. I have pre-emailing them, so prepping them for when they're about to come on. So I always email them like a week before we go live. We interview. I So that's in there. If I'm going to write a script for this, that's in there. If I'm going to create a Google folder, so I create Google folders for every single episode, that's in here. So when I say in here, there's a drop-down menu under planning and pre-recording for me. So again, that probably works in many of the other things. Recording and editing is pretty straightforward. If I've recorded it, there's a task for me. My VA, Daniel, he edits it and then uploads it to Captivate, right? Schedules it. Social and promo is going to be emails, social stuff. If I have a guest, I'm sending them some stuff for social, things like that. Post-production. So that's just going to be like quality control, making sure everything's updated, everything looks good. Excuse me, I said newsletters is up here. I have one specifically for show notes and newsletters because I think that these are two of the most important pieces when it comes to promotional content in terms of like writing show notes that are SEO rich. So we have an entire thing where I take the transcript, I turn it into a strong SEO blog post that goes up on my website. But of course, Daniel's helping me with some of those. Same thing with newsletter. I write my newsletters. If you're on it, hopefully you can tell, but I write my newsletters, Daniel uploads them, right? So those tasks are under there. And then one last QC, go live, make sure everything looks good. And so under there, it's really just like sending the guest 1 week prior saying, hey, our episode's going to go live. And then the go live is the day of checking the boxing, right? So that's a lot. You don't have to have it. But if there's anything under there that you're like, oh, I like that. Like that could be really helpful. I seem to be missing that step. What I want you to kind of decide is what are my non-negotiables? Like what do I need to get done and how can I focus on those non-negotiables? And those non-negotiables should be for every episode. And instead of like scrambling or chasing your tail, how can you sit down once, create one plan for yourself, and then just duplicate it? I duplicate this for every episode. Everybody knows if I need to go change things around, like it makes it so much easier. Okay, so can you zoom in? Okay, I want to zoom in on, this is like my Google Sheets again. Okay, and then this is Asana. And so these are kind of my core headers, and then I have tasks that fall under, okay? But yes, this is Asana. So Asana example here, and then Google Sheets there. How strong correlation have you found between online social media and podcast listeners? What percentage of audience follows you on social media? I don't know, like the actual metrics, Laurel. For me, it's my email list. Like I want to get them on my email list because then I can send them my podcast as much as I want. And so every time somebody follows me on social media, I have a canned message that I send them that says, I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to hear more about like who you are, why you're attracted, or what's supportive for you is, And then I also always link to my newsletter and say, by the way, I send out a weekly newsletter that's full of like podcast insider tips, yada, yada. I would love for you to join. So anytime I'm getting a social media follower, my goal is to get them onto my newsletter and get them over there. And so that's really like my goal. Social media, we don't own them. We can put our podcast up so many times and they can miss it every single time. And so when we can get them to our email list, we can tell them every time we drop an episode, right? We can send them free resources that nurture them even further. So that's what I would say. And the other thing is I do love having strong show notes because I do find those rank. And like I said yesterday with Holly, we just pulled hers and she's got a very big website. So lots of blog posts that she pulls from her podcast for many, many years. She couldn't even believe how some of these older ones were ranking within the last 3 months. So there's a lot of power to it if you have the capacity, right? Which leads me to one other thing. If you are feeling like it's getting to be a lot, like if you edit your podcast, so if you record and edit and do all the things and you want to expand what you're doing, show notes, newsletters, right? Social, creating assets to send to a guest or whatever it might be, I would highly consider getting a VA, right? Depending on your budget, but you can hire one for $12. Like my VA is my ride or die. He's been with me for so long and I couldn't imagine life without him. He truly is so helpful. So what I have done here is, I'm going to drop this here. That is a doc that has resources for you. So there's VAs in that doc. Everybody go to the chat, grab that doc. There's VAs I recommend. There's podcast production companies that are all women-led podcast production companies that can do everything from like editing to show notes. VAs can, Daniel's pretty booked out. I don't know. Do I have him on there? I feel like he probably was like, don't put me on there. Yeah. But okay, Daniel is my guy. He's booked out because I have a lot of clients using him, but his wife is Julie Carpio. And his joke is like, she does everything but better than me. And then the rest are wonderful options. There's also I say because Alice is here. Our sweet girl, Missy. Missy is the graphic designer. She was the graphic designer for Amy for many, many, many years, the main one. Like pretty much most of the things you'll see, Missy probably created. She's on her own now, and has a lot of options from cover art to creating slide notes. She created the workbook for you guys. So she's so talented. So please, if you're looking for anyone you have a meeting with Missy tomorrow. She literally just sent me a voice message. I'm in the same town as her right now. So, and she's got 3 little boys and I've got our kiddos. So we just get together all the time. But yeah, there's even a resource for Podwritten is a podcast booking agency for health and nutrition, fitness kind of stuff. And then podcast production. So if you have any questions about these specific people, feel free to reach out to me. But I hope that that's supportive for you. And I'm very, very picky about who is on that list. So you'll be in good hands with any of those people. Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about, actually, before we move on, oh my goodness, this goes so fast. If there's any questions, drop them. Okay, let's talk about reframing the competition, because I'm becoming more and more passionate about this as I feel like people are just like, all podcasters need to go to YouTube. And I'm like, again, you know my stance on it. I love it. I'm so glad it's there. And I don't want everybody to feel like they have to do it. You just don't, right? It just depends. It's all about the energy you put into it, right? If you're showing up frantic because you feel like, the experts are telling you to be everywhere, your content's not going to perform. But if we can show up and it feels good and juicy, show up where it feels good and juicy. And the energy might shift for you one day. But right now, do what feels good. Okay, so trivia. And for those of you who have heard me talk about this before, no cheating. Okay, so when I think about a platform that we can show up on and we can nurture and we can actually, that goes beyond social media, goes beyond like 30, 60, 90-second clips, that we can actually create like virtual digital relationships with our audience, I think of a blog, a YouTube, and a podcast, right? Those are kind of like the main platforms people are choosing to do long form content on. So I want you to drop in the chat. Oh, Natasha, you're so sweet. Yeah, Natasha worked with Missy. Okay, in the chat, I want you to guess, how many live blogs do you think were updated in the last month? How many live YouTube channels do you think are updated like monthly? Okay. And then how many podcasts do you think were updated in the last 90 days? Go ahead. Drop your guesses down in the chat. Millions for the first. 200,000 podcasts. Yeah, we can definitely answer your question too, honey. We'll get there. Millions for blogs, YouTube 400,000. Okay. Jasmine. Just kidding. Okay. 400,000 podcasts. Okay. You guys have been with me before. All right, let's move forward. I want to show you these stats. So in the last month on YouTube, we had over 600, blogs. Over 600 million blogs were updated in the last month. Okay, 600 million blogs are updated. Essentially, I pulled these probably in December of last year, so very recently, updated monthly. YouTube channels, over 60 million YouTube channels are updated monthly at this point. Podcasts, around 400,000 active podcasts in the last 90 days. Okay, so here is a table displaying the number of podcast shows published over a period of time as of January 2026. So every 3 days, there's about 100,000 published. Every 10 days, there's about 227,000. 30 days, we're over 300,000. 60 days, 400,000. And 90 days, around 400,000, right? Okay. The next thing that we have to consider, which is really cool, is when we think about our category. So I want everybody, if you don't know your category right now, when we're talking about like Apple categories, Spotify categories, right? So there's actually, I think I have it pulled. I have it linked up so we can look at them together. pull this over here. Okay, cool. All right. So when I'm talking about, generally, we're talking about like Apple categories, but there's a ton here, right? So master categories, art, then you have books, design, fashion, beauty, business, careers, entrepreneurship, management. So you generally will have like a core category, right? And then you'll have subcategories, generally like 2 subcategories. So you should definitely know where you're at. If you don't, go ahead, grab your phone, open up like Apple or Spotify, and you should be able to see when you go to your podcast right under, you should be able to see what categories you are ranking in, right? So when we think about 400,000 podcasts and we think about all of these categories, I didn't even finish it, right? Look at all of these categories. There is not 400,000 podcasters in the sports section. There are not 400,000 here, right? It is so much smaller. The true competition that we're looking at for every single category, and I'll tell you, entrepreneurship, business is the biggest category in Apple, but the subcategories, I'm in marketing and I've been ranking for almost the last year. Why? Because we're using the things I'm teaching you, right? So that should get you excited. I hope that gets you excited to think, I can make my show discoverable. Like, I can do that even better than probably on YouTube and probably as a blog if I'm starting out, if I'm small, to be able to gain traction. Okay, I wanted to show you some more numbers. Okay, so is podcasting here to stay? Let's talk about it because I know there's like conversations and people wondering, right? So there are more than 585 million people listen to a podcast in 2025. The numbers are expected to reach 619 million by 26, so around now. 34% of Americans listen to an average of 8.3 episodes per week. Okay, that's a lot of content, right? So it gets exciting the longer we're here and the more we have to offer. And that's also the reason that if you're newer and you're launching, or say you want to launch a new show, I always say start with 5 and don't get onto big name podcasts until you have like 20 episodes or more that you can have people binge, right? Because then they're going to want to binge a bunch of episodes. 83% spent more than 9 hours listening per week, which is crazy. And the market is projected to be worth $17.59 billion by 2030. So here's the table to display the number of podcast listeners recorded worldwide by year. Look at this, you guys, we're growing. We're growing. We're moving in the right direction. And so you're not too late. You're right in the perfect spot. And so I hope that gets you excited and just makes you feel like, yeah, I can do this. I want to pour into this, which you're here and that tells me that you want to. Okay, so when we think about the things that we can really kind of anchor in today, because I want to spend some time chatting over any questions that came up about yesterday or today. What's one thing that you can do? And this is actually, I believe, on your workbook. What's one thing that you can do to simplify your production flow? And simplify might mean setting aside time where you are going to sit down and plan out the episodes. You're actually going to sit down and put the topic somewhere that's important versus just saying, okay, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that episode. Okay. Another thing, how do you feel about the podcasting industry? Go ahead. And if you want to share any of these, I'd love to hear them in the chat. So exciting. Okay. Okay. We'll talk about categories again in a second. Block out dedicated time, create a monthly schedule, batch and recording more than one episode at a time. Yeah. And do what feels good for you. Using Notion to map out episodes, block off time. I'm so excited about podcasting and what's to come. So much opportunity. I love that, Sophia. Yeah, I agree. It's so great the way we're moving and the trajectory of it. And so the other thing, it's like, I think, I can't remember. Is it 35% of podcasters are female? Like it's tiny. And so we need to get our voices out there. It's really important that we do that. Is there a way to see how full each of the categories are? In other words, no. Okay, I have tried to find this for you, and I can't. They're kind of ambiguous with like what they say about it, but they're like, it's really hard to say. Apple's funny. Also, okay. You guys, I'm going to invite you to work with me in a bigger capacity. And if you do choose to come and work with me in a bigger capacity, one of my experts that are going to come and talk to you guys is actually Steve Wilson. Does anyone know who Steve Wilson is? If you're in Kathy's group, you might. Okay. He basically created Apple Podcasts. And now he's not, like, he left, but it's very funny listening to him talk about it because he's like, I don't know what they're doing over there. Like, I don't know. So anyways, he is brilliant and he has a lot of insight about it. But Apple is kind of funny. They always have been, like, about, I've sat down with people from Apple and they're like, yeah, well, I don't know how you know how to top the charts and stuff. So that's just that. And that's just the part of it. And podcasting, unfortunately, is kind of one of those industry that's like, it tends to be difficult to track things, which is just the truth. Podcasting is like the internet. You can find so much information, find your own customized information for what works for you. Yeah, 100%. Sorry. Okay. So I want to come full screen with you today. So I know yesterday was a lot of like tactical strategy, get to work kind of thing to implement. Today is a little bit less, but I do want you to figure out the flow that you can really implement to make it not feel like two things that I want you to avoid. One, chasing your tail. And the other thing is I don't want your podcast to be siloed in your company or in your business, even if it's just you. I don't, right? It shouldn't be siloed. It should be part of everything you do. It should be the biggest lead magnet for you bringing people in so you can nurture them. It should be part of your welcome sequence. It should be a part of your launch runway, whatever you're launching. It should be sharing how you coach, how you testimonials, all of the things, right? It should be integrated into your business, not just siloed. So that's what my big hope for you today. All right, there you have it. I hope you loved listening to that recording and you found it so valuable. I hope you have a few takeaways that you're going to start implementing, start working on behind the scenes so that it can make your production flow so much easier. But also, I really, really hope you realize just how unique and amazing it is to be in the podcasting industry and be a podcaster, especially a female podcaster. So thank you so much for being here today. Again, I would love to know if you didn't get a chance to join the Glow Up, or maybe you did and you want to go through it again. Go ahead, DM me on Instagram, email me, and let me know if you would love to see another Glow Up opportunity. Again, I'm thinking about hosting one in April, kind of on the fence, but it would be that or probably not at all for the rest of the year. Just with a baby coming and things. So let me know. Would love to hear from you, and I will see you next week.